Welcome to another deep dive. Today's mission is, it's actually a really compelling one.
It really is. It's something everyone is dealing with right now.
Yeah, we are exploring exactly what happens when cutting-edge technology just hits a wall.
Because if you're leading a team or managing a department, you're hearing about AI constantly.
Oh, absolutely. Bombarded by it. It's supposed to be the magic bullet for healthcare administration.
Right. But the reality is quite different.
Exactly. And for you as a professional in this space, just knowing what a tool can do isn't enough anymore. You need to know exactly where it breaks.
That's the real skill. Understanding the limitations of AI is not about, being a pessimist or rejecting the tech.
No, not at all.
It's a foundational professional competency.
Mm-hmm.
The administrator who knows where these tools fail is the one who can actually use them safely.
Yeah, and protect their organization from some pretty severe consequences of misplaced trust.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're pulling our insights today from a really fascinating text, The Frontiers and Failures of Healthcare AI.
Specifically, the chapter titled, What AI Cannot Do Yet.
Right. And what I really love about this source is that it's not just some angry takedown of technology.
No, it's very pragmatic.
Extremely pragmatic. It's basically a shortcut to being incredibly well-informed. It gives you a way to categorize AI flaws.
What's fascinating here is that the authors offer a really clear framework for this.
Hmm.
They point out that not all AI limitations are created equal.
Which is such a relief, honestly.
It is, because it's so easy to see a chatbot make a mistake and just say, well, this is all garbage. Or, on the flip side, assume every bug will just vanish next year.
Right, the magical software update that fixes human nature.
Exactly. So they divide these limitations into three distinct buckets.
I love a good framework. It really helps organize the chaos.
It definitely does. First, we have temporary constraints.
Okay.
These are the technical quirks that are actively rapidly improving. Second, persistent issues.
So things that get better but don't go away.
Right. Deeply ingrained challenges. And third, fundamental realities.
The hard boundaries.
Exactly. What AI simply is not and will never be. If you mix these up, you're either going to dangerously overestimate the tech today or severely underestimate it tomorrow.
That is such a critical distinction for anyone making operational decisions. So let's dive right into that first bucket, the rapidly improving quirks.
We have to start with the famous one.
We do. The hallucination problem.
Yes.
When we talk about large language models hallucinating, we mean they are generating information that is just factually wrong.
Or completely fabricated.
Right, completely invented out of thin air. But the terrifying part is how it delivers that fake info.
With absolute, unwavering confidence.
Exactly. It sounds so fluent. But the text clarifies a crucial distinction here. The AI is not lying to you.
No, it has no intent to deceive. It doesn't even know it's making things up.
I think of it like the world's most aggressive smartphone autocomplete.
That's a great way to put it.
It's just predicting the next most statistically likely word based on its training data. It doesn't actually know what a fact is.
Which is why the real-world consequences in healthcare administration can be so severe.
Oh, absolutely. The source gave some terrifying examples. Imagine you ask an AI to pull academic journals to support a new hospital policy.
And it gives you exactly what you asked for.
Right. It gives you authors, volume numbers, page numbers, publication dates.
It looks perfect.
Flawless. But none of it exists. It just mathematically generated what a citation is supposed to look like.
And if you don't catch that, the downstream effects are a nightmare.
Yeah, imagine sending a policy memo to your compliance officer citing a regulation that the AI just dreamt up. You've just created massive exposure for your organization.
Or presenting fabricated industry benchmarks to your board of directors.
Instant loss of professional credibility.
Yes, instantly.
But
Here's where it gets really interesting.
the good news.
Right, the good news. Hallucinations are shrinking. Every new model generation hallucinated less than the last one.
They are getting much better. But waiting for them to hit absolute zero is a trap.
So what's the play for the listener today? Independent verification. It is a mandatory professional response. Every factual claim an AI makes has to be verified against an authoritative source.
Like trusting a very fast, very confident intern. You still check their math.
Precisely. You cannot outsource your professional judgment on what needs to be verified.
Makes total sense. Now, what about the other issue in this first bucket?
Time blindness.
Ah, yes. The training cutoff.
Right. These models are trained on data up to a specific date, and then they're frozen.
They missed everything that happened yesterday.
Exactly. And in healthcare, yesterday matters a lot.
It matters constantly. The environment is always shifting. I mean, think about it. CMS updates reimbursement rates.
The Joint Commission revises accreditation standards.
Right, which throws everyone into a panic. State health departments issue new guidance.
And if your AI has a training cutoff from 6 months ago, it knows nothing about any of that.
It might give you a perfectly formatted compliance checklist based entirely on outdated rules.
Which is incredibly dangerous. But again, this is in the rapidly improving bucket.
Yeah, we're seeing this gap close quickly. Tools like Perplexity are built for real-time search.
And ChatGPT and Gemini have web-connected modes now.
Right, they can search the live internet to pull current info.
They can, but word of caution here. Web search integration isn't flawless.
It can still mess up the interpretation.
Exactly. It might pull an outdated cached page, or it might read a summarized news article about a new regulation instead of finding the actual legal text.
Glossing over all the important nuances.
Exactly. So AI is your starting point for research.
Never the final answer.
Right. Verification against the primary source is still non-negotiable.
Okay, let's move to the second bucket in our framework, the persistent issues.
Context and culture.
Right, the blind spots. The source calls this first part the "who am I" problem.
It's a great name for it.
Yeah.
Because a consumer AI tool knows absolutely nothing about your organization.
Nothing at all. It doesn't know your specific hospital's EHR system.
It doesn't know your internal policies.
Or your unwritten institutional knowledge. It is a blank slate unless you type that context into the prompt.
Which is why prompting is such a critical skill. A generic prompt gets a generic answer.
Let's give an example. Say you need to email your department heads about a new mandatory training protocol.
If you just say, write an email about cybersecurity training.
You'll get something that sounds like a corporate brochure from 10 years ago. It's completely disconnected from your reality.
It lacks the friction of your actual workplace.
Exactly. But if you use a rich prompt, telling the AI exactly who you are and what your constraints are, it changes everything.
You have to set the stage.
Right. So you say, act as the director of operations at a 500-bed rural hospital. Write an email to clinical department heads about mandatory cybersecurity training.
And then you add the context.
Yeah, you tell it, acknowledge they are dealing with severe staffing shortages, keep the tone empathetic but firm.
Tell it the training is required by the insurance underwriter.
Right, and it takes 20 minutes and is due Friday.
That prompt gives you a highly targeted, useful draft because you brought the context to the machine.
Now, will enterprise platforms solve this eventually?
To a degree, yes. Enterprise tools are starting to connect to internal policy libraries and document repositories securely.
So they'll know the official rules.
Right. But they still won't know the unwritten political dynamics of your boardroom.
Or that the nursing staff is currently exhausted from a tough week.
Exactly. The human context will always require your input.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this lack of inherent context ties directly into another massive persistent issue.
Bias.
Bias embedded in the machine. Large language models are trained on human-produced data.
And human data reflects human history.
Which is full of bias. Race, gender, socioeconomic status, geography, it's all baked in.
The models operate by predicting what is statistically likely based on that biased data, so they inherit and often amplify those historical inequalities.
And this impacts healthcare administration directly. The source had exact examples.
Like patient communication template.
Right. Generating outreach material that uses culturally inappropriate language for your specific demographic.
Or workforce recommendations.
Yeah, hiring criteria that subtly reflect historical disadvantages.
Or summarizing medical research, but heavily overrepresenting studies done on standard overrepresented populations.
While totally ignoring the nuances of marginalized groups. But let me ask you this. Aren't developers actively trying to fix this? Filtering the datasets?
They are. They are doing rigorous bias testing and trying to diversify the training data.
So won't it just disappear eventually?
No. It's too deeply embedded in human language and societal structures.
So the overt stuff gets caught.
But the subtle assumptions about what a standard patient looks like or what professionalism sounds like, those remain.
Which means this is a persistent operational reality for the listener.
Absolutely. You have an ethical obligation to critically review AI-generated content before it touches patients or staff.
The bias won't vanish, so our critical review can't vanish either.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the third bucket? The hard boundaries.
The absolute deal breakers.
Let's start with the biggest one in healthcare, IPA and data privacy.
There is zero room for error here.
Zero. When we talk about consumer tools, the free or basic versions of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, They transmit data outside your organizational control.
And they lack business associate agreements.
Right, no BAAs. The golden rule from the source is so clear here. When in doubt, leave it out.
Never put protected health information into a consumer AI tool.
No employee records, no sensitive financials.
Now, enterprise versions are evolving to offer high PA-compliant environments.
With BAAs and strict data controls.
Yes, but if you're just sitting at your desk using a standard web-based consumer tool,
The boundary is absolute, do not do it.
it's a direct violation.
Which brings us to the final limitation, and honestly the most profound one in the whole text.
The absence of professional judgment.
Yeah. AI can generate a recommendation that sounds incredibly confident,
It can build a highly persuasive argument.
but it has no real-world experience and zero accountability.
This raises an important question. What actually is the role of the healthcare leader?
It's not just processing data.
No. Professional judgment is weighing competing values in a messy context.
It's applying your accumulated intuition, knowing what failed 3 years ago.
And crucially, it's bearing the responsibility for the outcome. Because your decisions affect real lives.
AI can't do that. The source paints such a vivid picture of this, and AI cannot sit across the table from a patient advocate.
Or frustrated union reps.
Right, and explain a painful administrative decision with genuine institutional credibility.
It can mimic the sound of empathy.
But it cannot bear the weight of accountability. Deferring completely to an AI is basically an abdication of your professional duty.
You can delegate the drafting of a memo.
But you cannot delegate accountability to a machine.
Exactly.
So let's summarize this deep dive for everyone listening. You now have the framework.
The 3 buckets.
Right. You know the rapidly improving tech quirks like hallucinations and info gaps that require your constant verification.
You understand the persistent cultural issues.
The lack of context and the embedded bias which demand rich prompting and critical review.
And you know the fundamental hard boundaries.
Data privacy, error pay, and the absolute necessity of your own human judgment.
You are now far better positioned to evaluate this technology critically.
Dismissing it entirely is a mistake.
A huge strategic mistake. But accepting it uncritically is downright dangerous.
The goal is informed, accountable use.
Exactly. Using powerful tools in service of your obligations, not as a replacement for them.
I love that. And to wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to really mull over.
Building on that idea of mimicking judgment.
Exactly. As these AI models get more and more sophisticated, as they get flawlessly good at perfectly mimicking the sound and the structure of a confident, deeply empathetic decision, how will you ensure that you don't gradually mistake the machine's incredibly persuasive mimicry for actual hard-earned human wisdom?
Especially when the consequences of that decision fall squarely on your shoulders.
Exactly. It's an invisible creep you have to watch out for.
Definitely something to keep in mind the next time you use these tools.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep leading, and we'll catch you next time.